All right. Are we set? We look good? Awesome.
Okay.
Bye, Lyles. We're here in Charlotte. We're actually at UNC Charlotte on the campus today. It is great to have you here and to be able to have this conversation with you. Congratulations on being elected.
It's been 5 months, but it feels like 5 days. It's truly that tremendous to be the mayor of Charlotte. I am so grateful for the opportunity, and I'm glad that you chose this location. I love our university.
Awesome. Well, actually, I've never been here, so this is the first time I've had a chance to see this campus.
Third largest campus site in the system.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm from Greenville, and ECU is growing up by leaps and bounds also, so I totally get it.
We're ready for
All
our
right.
students.
So, I'm going to jump to the end for a second because I got to get this in. So, they say that when you're mayor, you sometimes grow up to be members of Congress or governors. So I'm putting you out there already.
Wow.
And you've been in 5 months.
I've been in 5 months, and this is what, and every politician says this, but I truly mean this. I ran to serve the citizens of this community, and that's what I focus on every day. I focus on how we can make sure that people can get a job, they can afford a place to live, and live in a great, safe neighborhood. So all of those other things that are going on, they're important, but right now, I'm committed to what I'm doing here.
Good. So let me, so I know this is a first.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about what it means to you, because it has to mean something, even though, it's sort of like, really, another first? Aren't we past that point? But you are, and so there are going to be a lot of young black girls in the city of Charlotte who are going to be looking up to you.
Sheila, you've said exactly what my response and heart feels is the idea that if by saying you're the first African American woman to do this job excites a young black or brown girl to do it, then that's fine. And at the same time, I want to be known as the mayor of Charlotte that got some things done. And so I hope that the legacy will be both, and they will be equally weighted. It's important for people to have role models, but it's important for role models to get things done.
Right, and so I'll sort of go back a little bit because you're used to getting things done, but not as a politician. You bring a lot of experience to this position, and so you have a perspective that is maybe a little different from some of the other members on your council. So talk a little bit about what you're bringing and why that is important, especially now.
I think it's one of the things that the voters saw in me, that I actually know how the city works. I know how to operationalize a policy that can be changed. And so when we're talking about the things that we want to do, I can conceptualize we need a goal and we need to know what we're trying to do. But I can also speak to our city manager and say, there's a way to do it, and let's just make sure we get it done well.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest challenges that are facing Charlotte right now?
Oh my gosh, the growth in Charlotte is so tremendous. 44 new people a day. Each person brings 1.6 cars. I'm still trying to figure out where they park that 0.6 car. But at the same time, that is a very real challenge. And as well, we are a banking center, a financial center, so we're attracting people that are very high-tech, in high-tech jobs. And those jobs pay well. But we also have poverty in this city, just like any rural county in this state. And so the challenge is how to make sure that those two things can work, but they work for everyone. So we want to be a city of choice, but we also want to have diversity. I don't want to live in a city where everybody makes 6 figures and works at a bank. Because where will be our art, our performance, our visual art? Where will be the people that care about the health care of people in this community? So we can do this. I believe in collaboration between our business community, our faith community, and people that are civically engaged. We're going to make this a city that continues to grow, but is attractive to all.
Yeah, so I know a lot of places across North Carolina, especially in the more urban areas, and even some of the bedroom communities surrounding those urban areas are seeing a lot of growth. And affordable housing has been one of the issues, and that parallels poverty. It parallels not having a really good access to a quality job that can help you build wealth. And so I know you've talked a little bit about affordable housing being one of the cornerstones on what you want to
Yes.
work on. So can you talk a little bit about, what you want to do with that, what you'd like to see?
We've always had the traditional public housing that the federal government has funded. But the federal government isn't helping anymore. And so what I try to talk to this community about is that if we don't do it ourselves, no one's going to step in and make it possible. Not only do we have affordability issues in housing, we have development pressure that's tearing down affordable housing. So my goal this year is to make a significant dent in the programs that we can do to help people find a home. And I'm just going to say this, government doesn't build housing, but we can influence it. So this isn't something that we're going to take on entirely. We're going to look to the people that live here that are having opportunities, that are growing their wealth. And we're going to ask them to work with us, to be a part of this. Because if you really want to run a great business here, the people that work with you, you have to care about them as much as you care about your product.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I struggle sometimes even when I have conversations with people about affordable housing and the need to include everybody at the table. And that includes developers and
Yes.
architects, because they're the ones who are going to be actually building the product that we're trying to ask them to build. And so the more we have them at the table so that we can understand their challenges, I think the better the outcome is.
Also the buy-in, it's not just the outcome, but as we're working through this, defining the problem, defining the solution, everybody needs to contribute.
This is a beautiful campus, and I see the cranes. And the cranes are probably the thing that sort of tell people the most that there's building and development that's going on and growth in the city, and everyone wants to be a part of that. So how do you keep people who typically aren't as engaged? Because there's a whole segment of the population that doesn't come out to vote, that doesn't show up at community forums. They aren't really following the city of Charlotte on Facebook because they're really following other things. And sometimes they just have other needs and things that need to get done. So how do you keep that relationship going with them?
We've had multiple strategies for that. We now live stream all of our council meetings. Our committee meetings are going to start live streaming soon. So when I think about, well, how do we do that? We've gone from come to a meeting to watch us on a computer. In the middle, watch us on television. But that doesn't always get an authentic dialogue.
Right.
So we have as many face-to-face meetings as possible. We're all over the city. We have town hall meetings. We have issue-based meetings. Whenever we have a large project or even something that's critical that isn't something that we did well, we try to say immediately, who do we call? Who needs to be informed? So when people see us, they're not seeing us for the first time. So we have to use multiple strategies because people are working and taking care of their families. They can't always be available when you make yourself available. So we use other tools, and I think we've done very well. And I want to say a lot of this is due to having a newly elected number of council members. We've had 6 people newly elected that are very comfortable with how do we disseminate information. And we have learned a lot and worked really hard with them to say, what are some of the things that we can do better and more quickly? And we've embraced it.
Yeah, I think being able to use technology in a more efficient and effective manner can go a long way. Because there are
It does,
so how many
yeah.
people do you have on the city council in Charlotte?
There are 11 members of
11.
council. We have 4 people elected citywide, and then we have 7 district members.
Okay, so are those true district elections where only the people in the district can
Only
vote?
the people in the district elect them. But the message that I like to say to people that are elected from a district is that you're elected from a district so that you bring diversity of thought, opinion, and ideas. But when you begin to vote, you vote as a council for the whole. Everyone should benefit from your vote, and not just that wedge that you have. We had district representation because we had all of the same type of people serving. In fact, at one time, I think we had an elected body that all went to the same church and all lived in the same zip code.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
You had to change. We wouldn't be the city that we are today. Ron Leeper in the mid-70s said, let's change this, and the petition did that. So we now have variety of opinions and thoughts. So we have diversity on our council. Not enough as yet, but we have our first Asian Indian person serving. We have 6 millennials. We have 3 women. We have all, I mean, it's just the mixing bowl is working.
Yeah, and you know, I've come from a science background, so I've always thought that diversity is your strength anyway.
It is.
So yeah. So I know you sort of mentioned earlier that you were going to run a second term, but what kinds of things, you know, if you wanted to say, here are some check the box things for my first term that I really want to accomplish, Sheila. This is it for me. These are must-haves.
So, Sheila, I want to say that I want to get reelected, but I want to tell you why. The challenges that we're dealing with, we get elected every 2 years.
Yep.
And I don't mind that. I knew that was the deal when I was running, and it's a 2-year term. But most problems that are, if there were problems that were easy to do,
That's right.
they would already be done.
That's right.
So when you say what checks the box for me, the first check on our box is the trust and confidence in government. I think we were losing that. And what I work really hard on is saying to people, I am going to be the same person today that I was yesterday, and I'm going to care about the same things. But when you talk about policy and what do I want to do, my first goal in this term is to actually have a long-term affordable housing plan. And not only the plan, but the money that follows it, the engagement of the community, and the actual implementation. That's what I want my first term to be, a signal.
So let me ask this, because, you know, like you said earlier, federal government, it's not really building housing anymore. The amount of money that it's providing is a lot more limited. And even if you just take into account inflation and the cost of construction now, you can't get done now what you used to be able to get done. And so when we look at what our financial resources are going to be, you know, people want to know that their taxes are going to be at a certain level. We have people who are on fixed incomes. How do we have a conversation with people, you know, about what this is going to look like in terms of taxes? Because really,
so I know, now you're getting me into my policy wonkish ideas and thoughts, and I know that. I know people have issues around raising taxes, but I think you also have to look at the issues where the state has actually reduced taxes. So they're not going to help us at a local level. The federal government has reduced taxes for a number of businesses as well as individuals. So if you want the services that local government provides, we're going to have to pay for them ourselves. Those other areas are doing tax cuts, but the tax burden needs to be shared equally. And property taxes do that. So you don't pay, you know, a certain rate just because you live in Charlotte. You pay based upon the value of your house and your land. Where we have a problem is land costs are going up so much. So one of the strategies that I have in affordable housing is really to help seniors that are living particularly in neighborhoods where they're seeing increased values, the ability to have a fund that we help them pay those taxes until that house is sold. So not increasing the burden on them, but on the buyer that comes in after they are leaving.
Okay, understood. So a lot of times when I'm having conversations, and let me sort of backtrack because you're here in Charlotte, and so you haven't been as tortured as some of the other people around me in Durham.
That may not be relevant. That may not be maybe relatively tortured. Okay.
Yeah. One of the things, and generally I sort of call these interviews, "Are you fit to be a politician?" And so I tell people I'm taking back the word politician because so many times it's used in a negative sort of way, and there's a negative connotation associated with it. And we need to remind ourselves that these are people who are committed to making our community better, okay? They're giving up time, self-time, family time, professional time where they could be doing other things, or even just time to hang out and go bowling, you know?
That's true.
You know? And so, yeah, but we do this because we care, right? Right. And so, you know, the other side of it is we want to also make sure that the people that we elect are taking good care of themselves. And, you know, and so part of the question I ask people sometimes is, you know, how do you do this? Because it is very stressful. It is a lot of work, and it does require a lot of sacrifice. So what do you do to sort of maintain some sense of levelness when you're going through this? And you just went through a campaign, and now you're actually in the job. What's that look like?
That's a great question, because I'm asking myself that question right now. I don't think that people understand. While I've always been a community servant leader, that was where you walked in and you had a board meeting or you had a project and you got it done. When you're the mayor of a community, everyone wants you to show up for every event, and I do that 7 days a week. But I actually have a plan, like to visit houses of worship, to go to different parts of the community and walk into a grocery store and meet people, and to have an open door. We have an online form, Meet the Mayor. You can just fill out a form and we try to respond to that. But at the same time, I think you can only be a good mayor if you have some boundaries. So I need time to read and reflect, and I'm trying to figure that out. And if you ask me what really, when things are really tough and when I'm really at my limit, I have a 2-year-old granddaughter that lives in Charlotte, and I go play. I can go play with a 2-year-old and feel so much better at the end of it. I think I need to learn how to sleep. That's going to be the important part,
yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
I want our community to know that I'm accessible, and I want to give. But if you give so much of yourself, you will not be able to sustain it. And I have had days and weeks when I haven't been able to, and I've had to stop. So I'm working on it. It's a good question, and I'm working on it.
No, I think we're all working on it, and I don't think you're any different from anybody else. You know, the people you represent are doing the very same thing.
That's
you
right.
know, it's like they've got kids to get to school. They've got parents maybe that they need to go pick a prescription up for. You know, they're trying to maybe do things for their church or other organizations that they volunteer for. So I think we all struggle to sort of maintain that balance. But for people who run for office and then serve, you're doing not just that, but you've signed up to serve everybody in your community. And so I want to thank you for taking this time to really stop and talk, because, you know, like I said, this is a first, and I think it means a lot. I think it means a lot to the residents of the city of Charlotte, and I want to say congratulations.
Thank you so much. I'm really proud to be mayor of Charlotte. I can't think of anything that I'd rather do right now, because I believe in the city. I love it, and we're going to be the best place to live in North Carolina. So much for Raleigh and Durham and all of that. Actually, I'm going to say this. I want our city to be successful so our region can be successful.
That's right.
And our state can be successful. That's what's going to make a difference.
You're right.
Thank
Amen.
you. All right.
All right.
Thanks, Sheila.
You're welcome.